Hi guys, welcome to the channel Practical Reefer. Now, for a guy with low nitrates and phosphates, I still love a good clean of the aquarium or the tank. They get called tanks a lot now. I have a habit of sometimes saying aquarium, which is just what I used to call it, but tank seems to be the word nowadays. Back in the day I always got called aquarium, but I do try and call it a tank myself. I just find myself calling it aquarium. Bit random. But so, I've had my issues. So my last video I showed you, or a couple of videos ago now, on Monday there, I showed you my tank at its worst. Not to make any weird online quotes about deserving at your worst or something like that. Now I've given the tank a big old water change today, because I was doing a bit of work to it. Probably about 15 litres. It was probably like 20%. Now I gave all of the sand, the blue's not helping there, the blue light, all of the sand got a really good vacuum. I finally cleaned my glass on the right hand side, and I took out my frag rack, which has been in there a good while. The whole frag rack just got a clean kitchen scourer sponge, nothing too abrasive. That just got a good wipe down, although there's still some of the coralline on it. The zoas, each one was taken out and got the old toothbrush treatment, and this was an hour or two, or not even an hour ago, sorry. What I might just do actually is just switch my lights off, just for a second, just to let you see. Most of them are now opening back up. The GSB got a bit of abuse as well. There's a little bit of algae in there. The mushrooms, definitely, they had algae in the rocks. They were taken out. I'll actually just, or even pop the blues on just for a second, just to get a bit of light. So you can actually see that green mushroom now. The clove polyps as well, they had a bit of algae on there. And most of these were actually in quite good nick. They had a little wisp here and there of algae. They weren't too bad. Some of the worst offenders, there wasn't any. That one there actually still had a couple of little bits, but literally it was just a toothbrush job. There was no dipping going on, no hydrogen peroxide. I just wanted to give the frag rack a really good clean. So that's been done. I'll do the power head next time. Same here, these were obviously just added yesterday in dip, so not a problem there. But super happy with how clean the tank looks. However, I just need to be careful with my nitrates and phosphates. But I couldn't help myself. I like to give the tank a good clean, and that edge or that end desperately needed it. So the sand got a good vacuum up there as well, and up the back and things. A few other bits, like next week, the power hit needs a good service. That is just turf algae, which grows quite quickly, so not too bad. So yeah, really happy with that. Now I do need to be adding additional fish to up the bioload. I'm feeding quite heavy as well, but I'm really happy with how the tank's looking there, so I'm happy with that. And another little thing, I got handed not even a fistful, like not even a shot glass full, like a tiny little bit of Ketomorpha or Cheeto, and I had this boxed in there for quite some time. It was something I bought off AliExpress, probably took a good few weeks to arrive. Go that way, avoid the glare. It was just something I had in the cupboard underneath, and I did pop it into this little tank, but the salinity is quite low on that, for reasons you'll see in my next video. And I had all these bits of rock dotted about the bottom of the sand bed. So some of that, there was one that the clove polyps came on, which I melted with dipping in hydrogen peroxide. Some of my mushrooms that I lost came on little bits of rock there. And there's a couple of snail shells as well. I bought Trocus snails, which I lost. My 10 Cerith snails are all absolutely fine. My 6 Nassarius snails are absolutely fine, and my 2 conches are very happy. And my 2 Trocus snails, one died a week later and one died maybe 2 weeks later, or there or thereabouts. They just, yeah, and I think that's something that happens sometimes with Trocus snails. They're not happy with the acclimation, and they just starve or they don't eat, which is a shame. So I won't be getting Trocus snails again, I don't think, for me. My Ceriths are doing a pretty decent job. So with a little handful of Keto that I got, I decided to just pop it in this little box, and throw in some bits of rubble in there, and thought I'd make a little refugium. Just a tiny one, just a little sort of test. So see it there, excuse the glare from the window. And what I did do, now in this little tank, this is dirty for a reason, it's habitat. for all the copepods in a little fishless system. Now, what I did do is I took quite a number of these tiles and I just lifted each one up. Now you don't see them on there, excuse the algae and that's why the bits of floss are on there just at the moment while it's cycling. It's keeping it from getting all covered in algae. Now, take one of these tiles out and shake it off in a jug and you will end up with a load of these. And I think there's a couple of amphipods in there as well actually, which we'll cover in another video. So yeah, that was really great. So what I did is I took a jug and I shook out quite a number of these and I popped them in there. So I can't really see them at the moment, there's quite a lot of air bubbles, and that's the thing with the copepods, they get tiny, but I thought it might be a good little breeding ground for them, and the chaeto might grow and it might get used in another system later on. I do plan to run a proper refugium in a sump tank that I've got coming up later, so if I can keep a little handful of chaeto growing there, then it'll be the source for my next tank. What I will say as well, while I was scrubbing the majority of these frag plugs, I was finding amphipods. Now there was a little amphipod in particular that was in between the GSP polyps. He was kind of running about in there, and there was a couple that came off. You know, they were underneath the ridge of the plug that sits over the hole, or sits on the frag rack. You know, the overhang. So they were in between the frag plugs and the frag rack. So that was quite good. I'm just spotting a bit of algae there. I think that's just been blown around by the current that's when I've done my cleaning, so that wasn't on the plug originally. And as you see, a lot of the zoas, they all got a good scrub. Some of them I was kind of quite close to the bone, although maybe my bambams maybe needs another little touch, but I was trying not to be too aggressive. But a lot of them did get a good scrub. That is my Gatorade the other day that was closed up on my video. You can see it there, definitely 2 polyps, and there's actually 2 little smaller ones. And the candy apple red, which is coming back on, there's actually a little nubs on the side, so that one's going to burst out. There's going to be, I think, half a dozen within a few weeks, hopefully. So that's a really good thing. Now, what I did find on the bottom of the sonic flares, right on the bottom of the plug, now there's a slight recess or like a dimple on the bottom of the stem. Bang in the middle of that, I'm pretty damn sure there was a vermitid snail. And there was also a couple of small kind of like little shells on the rims of 1 or 2 of these frag plugs. They were very, very small. I'm not quite sure. They could have well been the little spheroids. I'm not even saying that right. You know, the little filter feeder worms that are on the back wall there, the little white sort of calcified dots. It could have been those with a bit of growth on them. But I have a feeling it might be vermitid, but there was definitely one, or at least the shell of one, on the bottom of that the sonic flare frag, so that's a concern. I do plan to add bumblebee snails anyway when I find them in stock somewhere, so that's something I'm probably going to try and expedite a little bit and get them a bit sooner rather than later, because if they're already in there, I don't know if it was alive or dead. It just got scraped off and put into the water, change water, and thrown down the toilet. So that's gone. However, there's a chance they're in there. Hopefully it was dead. Although when I inspected the frags when it came, it was quite obvious it was there, unless it was very, very tiny. I did scrub them all with a toothbrush, but I'm worried that, you know, and they are difficult to dip. It's something that's hard to get rid of. So it's one of those things. Again, this might be a future sort of frag tank as well. I think if I'm acclimating anything, if I've got bigger tanks, then this will be the sort of in between, and then things will get scraped and dipped before they go into any of my bigger tanks. So you know, this we'll see how we get on. But bumblebee snails is definitely going to be a future purchase. It's something I've been looking for a while, and I've asked my local LFS to get them in. However, I can't remember the name of them. They're on Facebook. They do lots of critter packs and things, and mail order. I might give them a check out and possibly just order some bumblebee snails now just to make sure. But that's good. But yeah, really happy with the way the tank's coming out. Excuse the glare. I'll put the whites back on and the blues back to where they should be. But yeah, really, really happy. Nice and clean. I love how clean the tank is. I do worry that I've sucked out all of the detritus out of the sand bed, and I've done a big water change, so nitrates and phosphates are going to be even lower. but there wasn't really any there to start with, so I don't think I'm causing any issues. But again, I'm feeding quite heavy, and I'll be adding some more fish soon, and I'll keep on top of that. But thought I'd just do a little update. I'm loving how the tank's looking after a good clean. There's nothing more satisfying sometimes. But hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Just a little update to see the difference between day before the water change and the day of the water change, and how much difference that can make. And I do them every week, pretty religiously. Sometimes it's 5 days, sometimes it's 10, but pretty much on average it's pretty close to the 7 days. But it can sway a bit depending on how busy things are, or if I've got more time, or it makes more. If I know I'm going to be busy, I'll do it a bit sooner rather than later, and be a bit ahead of schedule. But pretty happy with that. I just thought I'd show you guys the tank, and thanks very much again for all the new subscribers, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.